thought about going out, checking on that treasure, seeing if there was gold to be had. But no, because we'll get caught up in it, for sure. So we'll do that another time. Let's go have some fire. Cave, sweet cave. And consult our book of thoughts. The bed is crossed out. I don't think we reflected on that. Oh, the crystals on that top paragraph at the very end. There are crystals in many colors. I could harvest some of them and decorate my room. We've completed that. Another item off the checklist. That's completely finished. And so is that. We now have 0 disappointments. We've successfully overcome them, perhaps you can think. Well done, little shade. So, if we were to count, what's left? A book that never ends. Hidden places. Places we haven't been to. And eventually, a birthday. And then that's it. It's not a lot left. Reading day. We've been making pretty good progress. I think I did 60 pages and then 80 the next day. So if we hit over 200 today, if we can finish this book in 2 more sessions, I'll be thrilled. I'm not gonna try to force it though. It's like trying to force someone to eat a vegetable. Some vegetables, they're horrible. You know, I wonder what was going through that person's mind when they were the first person to ever eat that vegetable and say, hey, it's good, we can eat this. Are you sure? Are you sure? I don't think we should. But yeah, this book is somewhat, it has a bit of a foul taste here and there. Chapter 24, Self-Surpassing. Silently doth it proceed, and unchanged throughout the years. Its course will go upon my feet, mine old will. Heart of heart is its nature and invulnerable. Invulnerable am I only in my heel. Ever livest thou there, and art like thyself. Thou most patient one, ever hast thou burst all shackles of the tomb. In thee still liveth also the unrealizedness of my youth. Oh, right, he's talking about his willpower to continue on, regardless of what has happened. In thee still liveth also my unrealizedness of my youth. And as life and youth sittest thou here, hopeful on the yellow ruins of graves. Yea, thou art still for me the demolisher of all graves. Hail to thee, my will. And only where there are graves are there resurrections. Oh, I think I've just read backwards. Whoops, not what we intended. The actual chapter 34. I need a break, give me a moment. Okay, that was just review. That was just a test. I mean, who reads books backwards anyway? I know the wall, the face had something to say about reading book backwards to page one, but let's not do that today. I thought it weird that there was only 2 pages for a chapter. Self-surpassing. Yeah, let's surpass that, what just happened. Will to truth, do ye call it, ye wisest ones, that which impelleth you and maketh you ardent. For the thinkables of all being, thus do I call your will. All being would ye make unthinkable, or ye doubt with good reason whether it be already thinkable. But it shall accommodate and bend itself to you. So willeth your will. Smooth shall it become, and subject to the spirit as its mirror and reflection. That is your entire will, ye wisest ones, as a will to power. And even when ye speak of good and evil, and of estimates of value, ye would still create a world before which ye can bow the knee. Such is your ultimate hope and ecstasy. The ignorant, to be sure, the people, they are like a river in which a boat floateth along, and in the boat sit the estimates of value, solemn and disguised. Your will and your valuations have ye put on the river of becoming. It betrayeth unto me an old will to power. What is believed by the people as good and evil? It was ye wisest ones, who put such guests in this boat, and gave them pomp and proud names, ye and your ruling will. Onward must the river now carrieth your boat. It must carry it. Small matter if the rough wave foameth and angrily resisteth its keel. It is not the river that is your danger, and the end of your good and evil, ye wisest ones, but that will itself, the will to power, the unexhausted, procreating life will. But that ye may understand my gospel of good and evil, for that purpose will I tell you my gospel of life, and of the nature of all living things. The living thing did I follow. I walked in the broadest and narrowest paths to learn its nature. With 100-faced mirror did I catch its glance, with its mouth was shut, so that its eye might speak unto me, and its eye spake unto me. But to wherever I found living things, there heard I also the language of obedience. All living things are obeying nature of all living things. The living thing did I follow. I walked in the broadest and narrowest paths to learn its nature. Wait, what has happened? With 100-faced mirror did I catch its glance with its mouth was shut, so that the eye might speak unto me, and its eye spake unto me. What has happened here? I may have just thought I turned the page, and I didn't. Right, beyond that. I heard the language of obedience. All living things are obeying things. And this heard I secondly. Whatever cannot obey itself is commanded. Such is the nature of living things. This, however, is the third thing which I heard, namely, that commanding is more difficult than obeying. And not only because the commander beareth the burden of all obeyers, and because this burden readily crusheth him. An attempt and a risk seem to all commanding unto me, and whenever it commandeth, the living thing risketh itself thereby. Yea, even when it commandeth itself, then also must it atone for its commanding. Of its own law must it become the judge, and avenger, and victim. How doth this happen? So did I ask myself, what persuadeth the living thing to obey, and command, and even be obedient in commanding? Hearken now unto my word, ye wisest ones. Test it seriously, whether I have crept into the heart of life itself, and unto the roots of its heart. Wherever I found a living thing, there found I will to power, and even in the will of the servant found I the will to be master. That to the stronger, the weaker shall serve. Thereto persuadeth he his will, who would be master over a still weaker one. That delight alone he is unwilling to forego. And as the lesser surrendereth himself to the greater, that he might have delight and power over the least of all, so doth even the greatest surrender himself, and staketh life for the sake of power. It is the surrender of the greatest to run risk and danger and play dice for death. And where there is sacrifice and service and love glances, there also is the will to be master. By byways doth the weaker then slink into the fortress and into the heart of the mightier one, and there stealeth power. And this secret spake life herself unto me. Behold, said she, I am that which must ever surpass itself. To be sure, ye call it will to procreation, or impulse towards a goal, towards the higher, remoter, more manifold. But all of that is one and the same secret. Rather would I succumb than disown this one thing. And verily, where there is succumbing and leaf falling, lo, there doth life sacrifice itself for power. That I have to be struggle and becoming and purpose and cross-purpose. He who divineth my will divineth well also on what crooked paths it hath to tread. Whatever I create, and however much I love it, soon must I be adverse to it. And to my love, so willeth my will. And even thou, discerning one, art only a path and footstep of my will. Verily, my will to power walketh even on the feet of thy will to truth. He certainly did not hit the truth who shot at it the formula, will to existence. That will doth not exist. For what it not cannot will. That, however, which is in existence, how could it still strive for existence? Only where there is life is there also will. Not, however, will to life, but so teach I thee will to power. Much is reckoned higher than life itself by the living one, and out of the very reckoning speaketh the will to power. Thus did life once teach me, and thereby, ye wisest ones, do I solve you the riddle of your hearts. Verily, I say unto you, good and evil, which would be everlasting, it doth not exist. Of its own accord must it ever surpass itself anew. With your values and formulae of good and evil, ye exercise power, ye valuing ones, and that is your secret love, and the sparkling, trembling, and overflowing of your souls. But a stronger power groweth out of your values, and a new surpassing. By it breaketh egg and eggshell. And he who hath to be a creator in good and evil, verily, he hath first to be a destroyer, and break values in pieces. Thus doth the greatest evil pertain to the greatest good. That, however, is the creating good. Let us speak thereof, ye wisest ones, even though it be bad. To be silent is worse. All suppressed truths become poisonous. And let everything break up, which can break up by our truths. Many a house is still to be built. Thus spake Zarathustra. Okay, so he's not just preaching to preach over these folk, but he's trying to enlighten them in some way. That when he looks upon nature, he sees those who are ruled and those who obey that rule. And I can imagine that with animals, such as a pack, where there's an alpha. Granted, alpha is just a man-made term for them. It isn't really such a thing. Even like with wolves, you have those who eat first and those underneath them and such. And even ducks have their own sort of pecking order. So I guess that's what he's pointing out. But he's also alluding to people as well, that there's just a naturalness to it. Those who lead, those who follow, and those who go to the temple to steal power. So he's speaking of the wise ones. I wonder if he's trying to refer to like preachers and such like that, because he uses temple. And he also speaks out against people who he says God is dead, right? And so I think he's trying to speak out against these preachers and such. Perhaps they're the quote unquote wise ones he's trying to point out here. And that, well, what is he saying actually? Because if he's saying it's normal in nature for there to be those who rule and those who are ruled, then is it wrong what they're doing? It's just the natural order for them to want to rule. And even though what they're ruling over is, I guess, a false pretense, if God is dead, why are you using that to rule others? Why not? Does it matter? I guess that's what he's eventually getting to. It's probably going to come back around to the idea of Superman. If there must be something that rules us, then why not it be the Superman? Because they would be the evolution, they would be the better. Maybe. Let's hear it for himself, from his own words. Chapter 35, The Sublime Ones. Calm is the bottom of my sea. Who would have guessed that it hideth droll monsters? Unmoved is my depth, but it sparkleth with swimming enigmas and laughters. The sublime one saw I today, a solemn one, a penitent of the spirit. Oh, how my soul laughed at his ugliness, with upraised breast, and like those who draw in their breath, did he stand, the sublime one, and in silence. So someone who's like ego-filled, o'erhung, and ugly truths, the spoil of his hunting, and rich in torn raiment. Many thorns also hung on him, but I saw no rose. And yet had he learned laughing and beauty. Gloomy did this hunter return from the forest of knowledge. From the fight with wild beasts returned he home. But even yet a wild beast gazeth out of his seriousness, and unconquered wild beast. As a tiger doth he ever stand, on the point of springing. But I do not like these strange souls. Ungracious is my taste towards all those self-engrossed ones. And ye tell me, friends, that there is to be no dispute about taste and tasting, but all life is a dispute about taste and tasting. Taste, that is, weight at the same time, and scales and waiter. And alas, for every living thing that would live without disputes about weight and scales and waiter. Should he become weary of his sublimeness, this sublime one, then only will his beauty begin, and then only will I taste him and find him savory. Only when he turneth away from himself will he overleap his own shadow, and verily unto his sun. Far too long did he sit in the shade. The cheeks of the penitent of the spirit became pale. He almost starved on his expectations. Contempt is still in his eye, and loathing hideth in his mouth. To be sure, he now resteth, but he hath not yet taken rest in the sunshine, as the ox ought he to do, and his happiness should smell of the earth, and not of contempt for the earth. As a white ox would I like to see him, which, snorting and lowing, walketh before the plowshare, and his lowing should also laud all that is earthly. Dark is still his countenance. The shadow of his hand danceth upon it. Overshadowed is still the sense of his eye. His deed itself is still the shadow upon him. His doing obscureth the door. Not yet hath he overcome his deed. To be sure, I love him the shoulders of the ox, but now do I want to see also the eye of the angel. Also, his hero will hath he still to unlearn. An exalted one shall he be, not only a sublime one. The ether itself should raise him, the will-less one. He hath subdued monsters, he hath solved enigmas, but he should also redeem his monsters and enigmas. Unto heavenly children should he transform them. As yet hath his knowledge not learned to smile, and to be without jealousy. As yet hath his gushing passion not become calm in beauty. Verily, not in satiety shall his longing cease and disappear, but in beauty. Gracefulness belongeth to the munificence of the magnanimous. His arm across his head, thus should the hero repose, thus should he also surmount his repose. But precisely to the hero is beauty, the hardest thing of all. Unattainable is beauty by all ardent wills. A little more, a little less. Precisely. This is much here. It is the most here. To stand with relaxed muscles and with unharnessed will, that is the hardest for all of you, ye sublime ones. When power becometh gracious and descendeth into the visible, I call such condescension beauty. And from no one do I want beauty so much as from thee, thou powerful one. Let thy goodness be thy last self-conquest. All evil do I accredit to thee, therefore do I desire of thee the good. Verily, I have often laughed at the weaklings, who think themselves good because they have crippled paws. The virtue of the pillar shalt thou strive after. More beautiful doth it ever become, and more graceful, but internally harder, and more sustaining, the higher it riseth. Yea, thou sublime one day shalt thou also be beautiful, and hold up the mirror to thine own beauty. Then will thy soul thrill with divine desires, and there will be adoration even in thy vanity. For this is the secret of the soul. When the hero hath abandoned it, then only approacheth it in dreams. The superhero. Thus spake Zarathustra. So I think he was just looking at this figure, this person who was physically powerful, and he was calling it not beautiful. Perhaps the person just walked around in pride. As he mentioned, the person, he held his chest high kind of thing, like, I am above everything, I am above you all. But Zarathustra, with his knowledge, believing himself, I am above all, he's looking down at this person of physical strength and saying, you've yet to learn. I guess in some ways, it sounds like Zarathustra is being guilty of it himself, with this sort of like ego that he's carrying. But I think he's trying to say this person who's carrying themselves just with ego, eventually they will learn of, well, I guess it ties into what he was just saying before, about there being some other leader. And in there he just said, approacheth it in dreams, the superhero. I guess to realize that strength alone is not enough, and to carry strength, but not to carry it with ego, to carry it with humility, and in that way, that's where it becomes beautiful. 36. The land of culture. Too far did I fly into the future. A horror seized upon me, and when I looked around me, lo, their time was my sole contemporary. Then did I fly backwards, homewards, and always faster. Thus did I come unto you, ye present day men, and into the land of culture. For the first time brought I an eye to see you. A good desire, verily, with longing in my heart did I come. But how did it turn out with me? Although so alarmed, I had yet to laugh. Never did mine eye see anything so motley colored. I laughed and laughed, while my foot still trembled, and my heart as well. Here, forsooth, is the home of all the paint pots, said I. With 50 patches painted on faces and limbs, so sat ye there to mine astonishment, ye present-day men, and with 50 mirrors around you, which flattered your play of colours, and repeated it. Verily, ye could wear no better masks, ye present-day men, than your own faces. Who could recognize you? Written all over with the characters of the past, and these characters also penciled over with new characters, thus have ye concealed yourselves well from all decipherers. And though one be a trier of the reins, who still believeth that ye have reins, out of colours ye seem to be baked, and out of glued scraps. All times and peoples gaze, divers coloured out of your veils. All customs and beliefs speak, divers coloured out of your gestures. He who would strip you of veils and wrappers and paints and gestures would have just enough left to scare the crows. Verily, I myself am the scared crow that once saw you naked and without paint. And I flew away when the skeleton ogled at me. Rather, would I be a day laborer in the netherworld, and among the shades of the bygone, fatter and fuller than ye are forsooth the netherworldlings. This, yea, this is bitterness to my bowels, that I can neither endure you naked nor clothe, ye present-day men. All that is unhomelike in the future, and whatever maketh strayed birds shiver, is verily more homelike and familiar than your reality. For thus speak ye, real are we wholly, and without faith and superstition. Thus do ye plume yourselves, alas, even without plumes. Indeed, how would ye be able to believe, ye divers coloured one, ye who are pictures of all that hath ever been believed? Preambulating refutations are ye of belief itself, and a dislocation of all thought, untrustworthy ones. Thus do I call ye, ye real ones. All periods prate against one another in your spirits, and the dreams and pratings of all periods were even realer than your awakeness. Unfruitful are ye, therefore do ye lack belief. But he who had to create had always his presaging dreams and astral premonitions, and believed in believing. Half-open doors are ye, at which grave diggers wait, and this is your reality. Everything deserveth to perish. Alas, how ye stand there before me, ye unfruitful ones! How lean your ribs, and many of you surely have had knowledge thereof. Many a one hath said, there hath surely a God filched something from me secretly while I slept. Verily, enough to make a girl for himself therefrom. Amazing is the poverty of my ribs. Thus hath spoken many a present-day man. Yea, ye are laughable unto me, ye present-day men, and especially when ye marvel at yourselves. And woe unto me, if I could not laugh at your marvelling, and had to swallow all that is repugnant in your platters. As it is, however, I will make lighter of you, since I have to carry what is heavy, and what matter if beetles and maybugs also alight on my load? Verily, it shall not on that account become heavier to me, and not from you, ye present-day men, shall my great weariness arise. Ah, whither I now ascend with my longing, from all mountains do I look out for fatherlands and motherlands, but a home have I found nowhere. Unsettled am I in the cities, in all cities, and decamping at all gates. Alien to me and a mockery of the present-day men, to whom of late my heart impelled me, and exiled am I from fatherlands and motherlands. Thus do I love only my children's land, the undiscovered in the remotest sea, for it do I bid my sails search and search. And to my children will I make amends for the being child of my fathers, and unto all the future for this present day. Thus spake Zarathustra. This book is weird, just as a whole so far, because he's not really talking to anyone. It just sounds like he's people watching. He's just looking upon crowds from up on high, and he's kind of preaching just to the air and just sharing what he's observing rather than actually talking to anyone, other than perhaps the reader. But what is the reader supposed to draw from this? So he saw upon the future in returning, seeing that people who are of the present, they wear fake masks. Okay. I'm sure we've all heard that before, that people are not true to themselves and that there's no meat on their bones. And I think what he meant by there not being meat on their bones, he's speaking figuratively, such as like wisdom. You must have come across wisdom at some point. Where is the meat? Why have you not gained meat from these things that you have eaten? It's kind of like if you think about perhaps the movie industry or video game industry, where a lot of people like retro and they enjoy the retro. I share this because, I've done a few races in the speedrunning communities where people play retro games. They don't really play modern games. Sometimes they do. There are a few who poke around here and there with some modern games, but on the whole, there's something that's just not fulfilling to them because there's, the way I see it, not a true inspiration with the modern games. There are just people who also look upon the past games and just say, hey, we could rebuild this, we could remake that. That's why I mentioned movie industry. We could remake that. We can put a new cover on this thing, which was a great thing. Let's rehash this. Let's remake this movie word for word and just cast new actors, stuff like that. Where's the meat? Where's the innovations? Where's the actual creativity of those people who came before you that your wisdom supposedly came from? And Zarathustra is saying he saw the future, and that in comparison, okay, perhaps it is making room for people to innovate, but not in the present day people, the future people. "37. Immaculate perception. When yester eve the moon arose, then did I fancy it about to bear a son. So broad and teeming did it lie on the horizon. But it was a liar with its pregnancy, and sooner will I believe in the man in the moon than in the woman. To be sure, little of a man is he also, that timid night reveller. Verily, with a bad conscience doth he stalk over the roofs. For he is covetous and jealous, the monk in the room. He is covetous and jealous, the monk in the moon, covetous of the earth, and all the joys of lovers. Nay, I like him not, that tom-cat on the roofs. Hateful unto me are all that slink around half-closed windows. Piously and silently doth he stalk along the star carpets, but I like no light-treading human feet, on which not even a spur jingleth. Every honest one step speaketh. The cat, however, stealeth along over the ground. Lo, cat-like, doth the moon become along, and dishonestly. This parable speak I unto you, sentimental dissemblers, unto you, the pure discerners. You do I call covetous ones. Also, ye love the earth, and the earthly. I have divined you well, but shame is in your love, and a bad conscience. Ye are like the moon. To despise the earthly hath your spirit been persuaded, but not your bowels. These, however, are the strongest in you. And now is your spirit ashamed to be at the service of your bowels, and goeth byways and lying ways to escape its own shame. That would be the highest thing for that would be the highest thing for me, so saith the lying spirit unto itself, to gaze upon life, without desire, and not like the dog, with hanging out tongue, not like the dog with hanging out tongue, to be happy in gazing with a dead will, free from the grip of greed and selfishness, cold and ashy gray all over, but with intoxicated moon eyes. That would be the dearest thing to me. Thus doth the seduced one seduce himself, to love the earth as the moon loveth it, and with the eye only to feel its beauty. And this do I call immaculate perception of all things, to want nothing else from them, but to be allowed to lie before them as a mirror with 100 facets. O ye sentimental dissemblers, ye covetous ones, ye lack innocence in your desire, and now do ye defame desiring on that account. Verily, not as creators, as procreators, or as jubilators do ye love the earth. Where is innocence? Where there is will to procreation, and he who seeketh to create beyond himself hath for me the purest will. Where is beauty? Where I must will with my whole will, where I will love and perish, that an image may not remain merely an image. Loving and perishing, these have rhymed from eternity. Will to love, that is to be ready also for death. Thus do I speak unto you, cowards. But now doth your emasculated ogling profess to be contemplation, and that which can be examined with cowardly eyes is to be christened beautiful. O ye violators of noble names! But it shall be your curse, ye immaculate ones, ye pure discerners, that ye shall never bring forth, even though ye lie broad and teeming on the horizon. Verily, ye fill your mouth with noble words, and we are to believe that your heart overfloweth, ye cozeners. But my words are poor, contemptible, stammering words. Gladly do I pick up what falleth from the table at your repasts. Yet still can I therewith the truth to dissemblers, yea, my fish bones, shells, and prickly leaves shall tickle the noses of dissemblers. Bad air is always about you and your repasts. Your lascivious thoughts, your lies and secrets are indeed in the air. Dare only to believe in yourselves, and in your inward parts. He who doth not believe in himself always lieth. A god mask have ye hung in front of you, ye pure ones. Into a god's mask hath your execrable coiling snake crawled. Verily ye deceive, ye contemplative ones. Even Zarathustra was once the dupe of your godlike exterior. He did not divine the serpent's coil, which with it was stuffed. A god soul I once thought I saw, playing in your games, ye pure discerners. No better arts did I once dream of than your arts. Serpent's filth and evil odor, the distance concealed from me, and that a lizard's craft prowled thereabouts lavishly. But I came nigh unto you, then came to me the day, and now cometh it to you. At an end is the moon's love affair. See, there, surprised and pale, doth it stand, before the rosy dawn. For already she cometh, the glowing one. Her love to the earth cometh, innocence, and creative desire is all solar love. See there, how she cometh impatiently over the sea. Do ye not feel the thirst and the hot breath of her love? And the sea would she suck, and drink its depths to her height. Now riseth the desire of the sea with its 1,000 breasts. Kissed and sucked would it be by the thirst of the sun. Vapor would it become, and height and path of light and light itself. Verily, like the sun do I love life, and all deep seas. And this meaneth to me knowledge. All that is deep shall ascend to my height. Thus spake Zarathustra. I'm just hearing a bit more of the same, but comparing with earthly things. He made this weird connection in my brain where he's talking about deceivers and their bowels, and then he mentions a snake. Wait, is he calling like the workings of your bowels to be a snake? I guess it could look like a coiled snake. Yeah, interesting. Chapter 38, Scholars. When I lay asleep, actually, let me grab a bit of water. But yeah, Zarathustra likes to talk about these same group of people endlessly. I do hope that things change. It does feel like a preaching. Well, he did say that he did think upon those individuals. He did like their arts, and he was fooled by it at one point, but he no longer believes in it. He no longer believes in what they do towards a god, but instead he believes that mankind itself can achieve greatness. And in that, mastering ourselves, mastering actual virtues, and striving to become greater than ourselves, an evolution, to become a superman, something beyond what we are, a better evolution of mankind itself. Okay, but we have that point, we have that picture. What does picking on these individuals and preaching about them, what is this accomplishing exactly? I'll continue. When I lay asleep, then did a sheep eat the ivory wreath on my head. It ate, and said thereby, Zarathustra is no longer a scholar. It said this, and went away clumsily and proudly. A child told it to me. I like to lie here, where the children play, beside the ruined wall, among thistles and red poppies. The scholar, am I still to the children, and also to the thistles and red poppies? Innocent are they, even in their wickedness. But to the sheep I am no longer a scholar. So willeth my lot. Blessings upon it. For this is the truth. I have departed from the house of the scholars, and the door have I also slammed behind me. Too long did my soul sit hungry at their table. Not like them have I got the knack of investigating, as the knack of nut-cracking. Freedom do I love, and the air over fresh soil. Rather would I sleep on ox-skins than on their honors and dignities. I am too hot and scorched with mine own thought. Often is ready to take away my breath, and have I to go unto the open air, and away from all dusty rooms. But they sit cool in the cool shade. They want in everything to be merely spectators, and they avoid sitting where the sun burneth on the steps. Like those who stand in the street and gape at the passers-by, thus do they also wait and gape at the thoughts which others have thought. Should one lay hold of them, then do they raise a dust like flour sacks, and involuntarily, but who would divine that their dust came from corn, and from the yellow delight of the summer fields? When they give themselves out as wise, then do their petty sayings and truths chill me. In their wisdom there is often an odor, as if it came from the swamp. And verily, I have even heard the frog croak in it. Clever are they. They have dexterous fingers, and doth my simplicity pretend to beside their multiplicity. All threading and knitting and weaving do their fingers understand. Thus do they make the hose of the spirit. Good clockworks are they. Only be careful to wind them up properly. Then do they indicate the hour without mistake, and make a modest noise thereby. Like millstones do they work, and like pestles throw only seed corn unto them. They know well how to grind corn small, and make white dust out of it. They keep a sharp eye on one another, and do not trust each other the best. Ingenious little artifices, they wait for those whose knowledge walketh on lame feet. Like spiders do they wait. I saw them always prepare their poison with precaution, and always did they put glass gloves on their fingers in doing so. They also know how to play with false dice, and so eagerly did I find them playing, as they perspired thereby. We are alien to each other, and their virtues are even more repugnant to my taste than their falsehoods and false dice. And when I lived with them, then did I live above them. Therefore did they take a dislike to me. They want to hear nothing of anyone walking above their heads. So they put wood and earth and rubbish betwixt me and their heads. Thus did they deafen the sound of my tread. At least have I hitherto been heard by the most learned. All mankind's faults and weaknesses did they put betwixt themselves and me. They call it false ceiling in their houses. But nevertheless, I walk with my thoughts above their heads, and even should I walk on mine own errors, still would I be above them and their heads. For men are not equal, so speaketh justice, and what I will, they may not will. Thus spake Zarathustra. Kind of on topic, kind of off topic, I took a course about economy. I don't remember if it was macro or microeconomy. It's one of those. But we did a little bit of history about where communism came from. And it started with a man who had a lot to say about the Americas and about capitalism. And he wrote extensive lengths of pages of what was wrong. And I think I've seen the same in game development. It's easy for people who write reviews and who play games, it's easy to say what is wrong with something or how somebody is doing something wrong. But what's most valuable to somebody is how to do something right. How do you write that? I mean, you're critiquing this person who wrote communism. You're critiquing about what's wrong with capitalism. Okay, what could we do different? And somebody proposed to him, a group of people proposed to him, could you write something that would work instead? You know, you have all this knowledge of what doesn't work. What does? And he decided, okay, after some pressure, I'll attempt to write something, but it's very little. It's not complete. It's perhaps a start. Somebody with more knowledge, more experience, with more, how would you say, more intuition, more knowledge of these things could surpass what I have done. But here is the beginnings. And that beginning was taken word for word and used as the foundation for communism. What? You know, it's not what he intended, but look what became of it. Just a little bit of writing of something, how to do things different. It created a whole different way of living for people. It was successful in some ways, and then it failed horribly. Because as a foundation, he said it himself, this is not the foundation, but it's a start for one. But with Zarathustra, reading it to this point, it sounds like he's writing a lot of the wrong things and how not to things But what are the right things? He wants to talk about Superman so much, and he's spending so much time talking about what is unvirtuous. He did talk about what is virtuous. Granted, we absorbed that lesson. That was nice. But then what else is there? I'm finding far too much being said about the negative things, and that's being the focus. Well, what else is there? Where is the meat? Where is the substance? We're just picking over the same old bones. 39. Poets. Since I have known the body better, said Zarathustra to one of his disciples, the spirit hath only been in me symbolically, spirit, and all the imperishable, that is also but a simile. So have I heard thee say once before, answered the disciple, and then thou addest, but the poets lie too much. Why didst thou say that the poets lie too much? Why, said Zarathustra, thou askest why. I do not belong to those who may be asked after their why. It is my experience but of yesterday. It is long ago that I experienced the reasons for mine opinions. Should I not have to be a cask of memory if I also wanted to have my reasons with me? Is it already too much for me even to retain mine opinions? And many a bird flieth away. And sometimes also do I find a fugitive creature in my dovecote. Dovecote? I don't know this word, which is alien to me, and trembleth when I lay my hand upon it. But what did Zarathustra once say unto thee? That the poets lie too much? But Zarathustra is also a poet. Believest thou that he there spake the truth? Why dost thou believe it? The disciple answered, I believe in Zarathustra. But Zarathustra shook his head and smiled. Belief doth not sanctify me, said he, least of all the belief in myself. But granting that someone did say in all seriousness that the poets lie too much, he was right. We do lie too much. We also know too little. We are bad learners, and we are obliged to lie. And with us poets hath not adulterated his wine. Many a poisonous hotchpotch hath evolved in our cellars. Many an indescribable thing hath there been done. And because we know little, therefore we are pleased from the heart with the poor in spirit, especially when they are young women. And even of those things are we desirous, which old women tell one another in the evening. This do we call the eternally feminine in us. As if there were a special secret access to knowledge, which choketh up for those who learn anything. So do we believe in the people and in their wisdom. This, however, do all poets believe, that whoever pricketh up his ears when lying in the grass or on lonely slopes learneth something of the things that are betwixt heaven and earth. And if there come unto them tender emotions, that do the poets always think that nature herself is in love with them, and that she stealeth to their ear to whisper secrets unto it, and amorous flatteries. Of this do they plume and pride themselves before all mortals. There are so many things betwixt heaven and earth, of which only the poets have dreamed, and especially above the heavens, for all gods are poet symbolizations. Poet sophistications. Verily, ever are we drawn aloft, that is, to the realm of the clouds. On these do we set our gaudy puppets, and then call them gods and supermen. Are they not light enough for those chairs, all these gods and supermen? How I am weary of all the inadequate that is insisted on as actual. How I am weary of the poets. When Zarathustra so spake, his disciple resented it, was silent. And Zarathustra was also silent, and his eye directed itself inwardly, as if it gazed into the far distance. At last, He sighed and drew breath. I am of today and heretofore, said he thereupon, but something is in me that is of the morrow, and the day following, and the hereafter. I became weary of the poets, of the old and of the new. Superficial are they all unto me, and shallow seas. They did not think sufficiently into the depth. Therefore, their feeling did not reach to the bottom. Some sensation of voluptuousness and some sensation of tedium, these have as yet been their best contemplation. Ghost breathing and ghost whisking seem to me all the jingle-jangling of their harps. And what have they known hitherto of the fervor of tones? They are also not pure enough for me. They all muddle their water, that it may seem deep. And fain would they thereby prove themselves reconcilers. But intermediaries and mixers are they unto me, and half, and impure. I cast indeed my net into their sea, and meant to catch good fish, but always did I draw up the head, some ancient god. Thus did the sea give a stone to the hungry one, and they themselves may well originate from the sea. Certainly one findeth pearls in them. Thereby they are the more like hard mollusks, and instead of a soul, have often found in them salt wine. They have learned from the sea also its vanity, and not the sea, the peacock, the peacocks. Is not the sea the peacock of peacocks? Even before the ugliest of all buffaloes doth it spread out its tail. Never doth it tire of its lace fan of silver and silk. Disdainfully doth the buffalo glance thereat, nigh to the sand with its soul, nigher still to the thicket, nighest, however, to the swamp. What is beauty, and sea, and peacock splendor to it? This parable I speak to the poets. Verily, their spirit itself is the peacock of peacocks, and a sea of vanity. Spectators, seeketh the spirit of the poet, should they even be buffaloes. But of this spirit became I weary, and I see the time coming when it will become weary of itself. Yea, changed have I seen the poets, and their glance turned towards themselves. Penitents with the spirit have I seen appearing, and they grew out of the poets. Thus spake Zarathustra. I think in some ways, a lot of this book is reflections. We're learning about Zarathustra, where his knowledge came from, and what caused him to change his ways from wanting to be a poet, from being a poet, from wanting to be like a preacher, to becoming something different, where the preachers themselves wanted to distance themselves from him. And he enjoys that fact that they want to distance themselves from me, these people that I wanted to be most like. This is the most comfy place beneath the earth for sure. I should try to sleep a bit. Look at that little cozy boy. In some ways, Zarathustra's picking on himself, because he says, yeah, I'm a poet as well. We are liars. Or I'm like a preacher as well, and we are like this. And so he's not just poking fun at these other people. He's poking fun at himself. I guess that's the message that he wants to really share. I often poke at other game designers. Well, because I am also. Right. The time is flying. Sleep well, little shade.